Hi Shilpa, how are you?
I'm very good, Nivedita. Glad to be here in conversation with you today.
And it's such a pleasure and honor to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting my invite and coming here, spending your afternoon here with me today.
Absolute pleasure.
For everybody who's listening to us, watching us, Shilpa Ajwani is the founder and CEO of Uno Mantra, a business strategy consulting and leadership advisory firm. Through Uno Mantra, she enables corporate leaders and entrepreneurs to become future ready and thrive by aligning strategy with purpose. I think a lot of big organizations also need to align their strategy and purpose. Shilpa is also the founder of She Mantra, and that's how I got to know Shilpa the first time. It's a global community of women entrepreneurs in service based businesses that is present in over 15 countries today. And among the many accolades Shilpa has, she has also won the CEO of the Year 2017 award conferred on her by the Economic Times Polymer Awards while she was leading Tupperware India as the managing director. And she is a much sought after speaker, leadership facilitator, panelist, and industry mentor. Wow, Shilpa is on the advisory board for non profits, organizations, and purpose led startups. That's amazing, Shilpa, and I'm honestly honored to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Let's dive in.
So, what inspired you to get into, you're a corporate leader, you have been the CEO at Tupperware. What inspired you to take the entrepreneurial plunge?
So I feel it was the answer to one question I asked in my mid 40s at the close of one of my birthdays, when the cake was cut and the celebrations were over. And I had some alone time to reflect on that birthday evening. I just asked myself one question, Nivedita, and that was that it's been a life of success thus far. But what would really make this a life of significance? And I really mulled on that question for a few days, and the answer was that it is time for a second innings. It is time to break the mold, challenge my own limits, and push myself into an unknown world, literally outside of my comfort zone. And that was the world of entrepreneurship, where I felt that my purpose would get even bigger wings. So that's how the journey from being a corporate leader to an entrepreneur running my own strategy consulting leadership advisory firm happened.
I think yeah, that's so that's resonates so well. Most of the entrepreneurs, founders, are looking for meaning and purpose because it's the journey of being an entrepreneur is not an easy one. And unless you have a deeper drive, something that really touches your heart, it's hard to sustain it. How has the journey been for you? You took the plunge, in search of purpose, in search of that holy grail. How has it been for you?
I feel very blessed actually because in hindsight, and they say you can only connect the dots in hindsight. In these years as an entrepreneur, each and every day, I just feel I have grown leaps and bounds because I was literally painting on a blank canvas. And the world felt like my oyster. I could really strategize to make this business exactly the way I wanted it to be, play by the values that are very dear to me, align my own growth strategy in the business to my purpose so that there is absolute alignment in what I think, I say, I do every day as I wake up. And then even the choice of clients that I attracted. So many of them came by word of mouth because of the good work that had started to happen. And even in the pandemic, I think as more people started to take the word purpose more seriously, Nivedita, the business actually grew. And it grew to a point where I started to feel the need to also see that it's not just about me growing alone, but every woman like me who had really left the comfort and the golden handcuffs of a corporate career ventured out into entrepreneurship. How is she doing? Right? And that really, led to the birth of She Mantra as a community as well, right in the middle of the pandemic. So even as Uno Mantra was growing and thriving, I just started to feel that, to grow alone is no fun. What if I am able to collaborate and grow with many, many more, and more of us thriving together? And that led me to become also the founder of She Mantra. So it's been a very, heartening journey, where there's a lot more confidence in one's ability, that even if everything is taken away from you, you can still, create something of value to yourself, for your family, for society, for every client that you serve. And I just feel, that it's given me um, new fulfillment, fun, freedom, flexibility, friends, just so much that I feel very blessed.
That's amazing. I had to share. I'm part of a lot of communities, founder communities, women communities, parent and coach communities. She Mantra is one community in which I know I can just pick up the phone for, just interact with any member, and I have never spoken to them before. But when the conversation starts, it's as if, we've known each other forever. So I do have a lot of deep relationships and professional relationships on She Mantra. So how were you able to it's in 15 countries, and how many there are multiple micro communities
Yes.
within She Mantra, right? So what were the challenges that came in the way? How did you keep pivoting yourself on that?
I call She Mantra my passion project, Nivedita. This is a community that is really built out of purpose and passion. And that is why, till today, it is a by invitation community. And it has given me, again, just so much of comfort that anything which is built with a good intent, with a spirit to serve and to contribute, will grow organically. So today I find myself in a happy place as just the founder and catalyst who brought She Mantra into the world. But She Mantra is held together and grown every day by leaps and bounds by hundreds and hundreds of She Mantrans who I feel like we are all dancing in that circle of abundance, and each one brings forth their talents, their skills, their gifts, just with just so much of generosity and the feeling of enabling the other, that we all end up growing and thriving in the process. Yeah. So
What are
so
the
I think,
yeah.
that's something which, and it's happened organically. It hasn't been really written down. That this is exactly how we were supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be. But when you plant the seeds and you nurture them well right in the beginning, I think you can be assured that a lot of the challenges which come in the way of growth, whether it is for communities or organizations or in society, you can actually preempt them not happening. And it all goes back to the intent, the purpose, the values with which you begin something and with which you nurture something. So I think, it's purpose and our principles, two things that I've had to be very mindful of, and everything, just because of these guardrails, has taken care virtually of itself.
So you're saying that a lot of people get too focused on the execution side, but it's the purpose and the principles, the values you set in place before that actually guide, especially
Correct.
communities here, where it's more inspiring than just directing, right?
Yes.
Getting other
Yes.
people.
And this is a non-monetized, volunteer-based community where people are just not bound to show up to support each other. There's no mandate, because everything is left to what you want to contribute and how much value do you want to derive. And yeah,
I think
that's how
that
it
there's
is.
an interesting lesson for startups there, and even organizations that work with Gen Z or very very young millennials, because some of the challenges corporates and startups face is engagement, right? How do you motivate people? Even though like She Mantra is a voluntary community, non-commercialized. Even when people are being paid for the work they do, still it's a challenge in getting in the engagement and getting work done. So how does that play out? Like, what would your advice be to a founder or a leader who's working with Gen Zs and young millennials? How do we inspire them?
I think, especially the younger millennials and Gen Z in particular, they really focus on a few things, and then they are extremely focused to see that it's being put in practice through and through. And some of these words are purpose, authenticity, autonomy, right?
Honestly,
Transparency. Yeah. Now, these are people who are perhaps the first digitally native population on this planet, and they have access to a whole lot of information. And they have the smarts to access pretty much anything that they want to, given all the progress that technology has made. And now you've got Gen AI and then agentic AI coming in. And every day you see that the possibilities to sit in one place and mine the information, historical and do future projections, everything's just possible for this generation, right? We are living in a time of huge opportunity. But at the same time, they also realize that it is so possible that we could easily end up being fake, or say one thing and do another thing. And this generation, especially, is very sensitive to all of this because remember, what they are seeing is climate change. They are seeing geopolitical disturbances. They are seeing wars. They are seeing a pandemic in which a lot of them were passing out of school, getting into colleges, some of them getting their first jobs in a very uncertain economic time in their lives. So while being very young, they have seen a huge set of macro problems directly or indirectly impacting them. And that I think has increased their sensitivity antenna a lot, which is where when they come into the workforce, and there will be plenty of them by 2030, definitely, in several countries, especially the emerging countries and India, China. I mean, these are important countries there with large populations of this generation. I think they will really look for all these words and qualities that I just mentioned in every employer that they would want to be employed by. And if employers don't, wake up and really address reality and what makes these young people, young, very bright, um, to give their best, I think we will do a big disservice to the talent that they bring to the workforce.
I
And, they say you can't measure the ability of a fish by how fast it can climb a tree. And if we in the workplaces, inside of homes, do not, see them in the light that they deserve to be seen, I think we will miss out on the huge potential that they have. I'm
I
a
think
mother to a Gen Z, so I speak with a lot of emotion on the topic.
I can see that, I can see that passion coming up. And in fact, that's one of the analogy I was drawing. Like a lot of leaders now are in the older millennial or, the 40-45 bracket, and they're managing Gen Z, and at home, their teenager would say, "You don't understand me, you don't get me, you don't speak my language." So that same thing holds true in the office, right? 25-year-old doesn't really get the language of the leader. And coming back to the values you mentioned, the authenticity, and another interesting thing, like in the same line, we had being trying to looking for authenticity, but at the same time not coming across as fake. Instagram and social media, a lot of us
Yeah,
feel the pressure to pretend. So
true.
while we are aspiring to be authentic, we are looking for authenticity, we are searching for the real thing. There's just
Yeah,
so much of pressure to pretend to be someone, to be liked, just to be a part of a group.
correct, correct. Yeah, because I think, the essential desire to feel a sense of belonging never goes away. And it's as strong whether you're living in the real world or you are an inhabitant of the digital world. I think wherever you are, you would want to feel that you belong, that you're accepted for who you are. And I think, that's where, if we can make it simpler at home, in schools, for children, especially as they're growing up, to start to feel more comfortable in who they are and give them a bigger acceptance in showing up. as their authentic selves. I think that lure, might reduce, which leads to all kinds of mental health issues, and comparison has never really done anyone good, right? And this is like 24/7, as if you're on show, and I feel, that's what leads many of them to do things which put a whole lot of pressure. The other day I was reading about the tendency of a lot of these children, especially the ones who get credit cards, to start consuming brands which are way above their league, and it is only to be seen as one amongst the group of friends and to belong. So if it's a 35,000 rupee handbag, which you don't really need when you are 24, but if all friends are carrying something like that, then you don't want to be the odd one out. And that goes for some of them who start playing that game. And I'm not saying all of them do, because a lot of them also are shunning a lot of this ostentatious materialism, going in for sustainable options, and proudly wearing those, carrying those, looking at living life with a very different set of values. So we have everything happening in this world. But if we are able to, allow our children that choice, and, you know, trust them by showing them a good example, and also telling them that we do trust them, but there are consequences to every decision they will make. I think doing both is the responsibility for everyone who's around them: parents, teachers, coaches, everyone who works with children today.
Giving them the trust and as well as establishing some frameworks and
Correct. Correct.
rules. Yeah. So, at InnerMind, we work with students and schools in building emotional intelligence. And one of the parts, for it was we wanted to understand what are the challenges students today are facing, especially in the K-12 space. And we surveyed a group of 1,000 students across the country. Top three challenges: exam anxiety, peer pressure, and peer pressure is in different ways. It's
Yes.
also in terms of scoring as much marks as my friend, or it could be wearing the brand that my friend wants. So peer pressure and body image, self image, who I am. So how do I come across? And I think, yeah, like you said, the digital disruption also has a role to play in this. But having said that, how do you think, like, yes, there are things that parents can do. What is the support, like coaches can provide to students?
So I'm a big believer that, if you have access to a good coach well in time, it's one of the most invaluable gifts that you can receive, right? Good coaches allow you to play to potential, because they can, in a very, I would say, loving way, nudge you to uncover your blind spots and really unlock that potential, which might not be unlocked for various reasons. Say, if there is a lot of self doubt that you've grown up with, right? Or you are someone who's suffering because you have parents who are constantly comparing you with other children, and you are facing that pressure at home. And in any case, when you're at school, there's always a child who's, ahead of you doing something better, and the teacher's pet student, whether in sports or in studies. So there's just no respite. And then to get some respite, you hit social media, and then there's someone who's showing up wearing, the brand that you so crave, and you just know, no way will your mom ever allow you to wear that, or or you don't get enough pocket money that you will be able to afford it, and then you're like, this is disaster. There's no peace anywhere. And I think, really having a good coach by your side can allow you that safe space, where you can just show up as yourself without fear of judgment, and learn enough about working on your mindset. And depending on what kind of a coach it is, it could be even your skill set, and get equipped with the right tool set, which prepares you for life to be able to manage any kind of challenge, not just the immediate challenge that coach might be working with you, because I think coaching is a process and that sort of prepares you for life. And that's one reason why we even see that the best athletes in the world have a coach. The most successful business leaders in the world have a coach. So I really feel that a good coach will allow you to ace the game, any game that you are playing, whether it is academics, whether it's sports, whether it's just showing up in life in general, because even that's become like a pretty competitive game these days, right? Just getting up and facing a new day. I really feel, gone are the days where people used to feel that coaching is for laggards, people who can't cope up, whether academically or they're just not able to play their A game. Weak people or students take coaching. No way. If you really want to be the best in your game, um, it is advisable to find the best coach that you can and then be open about receiving the coaching from them.
Yeah, and that's why corporates have learned that early on, right? They
Yeah,
provide coaches to the best of employees with the best potential,
true.
so that they can mind that. Yeah. You speak with such passion about coaching and how it impacts. Any personal stories you'd like to share?
I think coaches come in many avatars, and I feel I would say my parents were my first coaches, even without realizing, right? Because what a coach gives you is a safe space, like I said, and they unlock a lot of your curiosity and lead you to answers that are residing within yourself. So I think, again, I say knowingly or unknowingly, I was blessed to have parents where allowed us a home where asking questions was good, and they didn't jump in to give us answers easily as well. So I think, especially my mom, I think I would call her in a way a born coach, where till today she would ask me questions on not just how the day was, but so if she hears me, that I have an issue I'm dealing with. So what have you thought about it? How are you going to solve it, or who have you reached out to get some support on this, right? So how has this really impacted other things which could be high priority for you? So just by asking these questions very simply out of concern and love, she just gets me to think completely differently. And that's what a beautiful question is, which coaches ask, that those are questions which create a shift in your mindset.
Shift in thinking.
They allow you to think of new possibilities, and they connect you to a world which you might be scared of entering on your own, because they sit there and they give you that comfort. So I think that's one of my earliest sort of recollections now, again, when I connect the dots backwards, that it all started perhaps at home. Then there was school, where not everyone but some of the teachers really played their role as coaches as well. And then in my own career, I think access to coaches and mentors, I mean, not just for myself, but seeing the impact they are having on other people around me as well, and then playing coach and mentor to several people, I think that just completely made my faith 100% that we can constantly learn, evolve, and grow. And if we have a good coach by our side, the journey is that much easier. So why struggle when you can do it in a way that is simpler and far more powerful, honestly?
With the guru, like Arjun and Krishna, being the coach,
Yeah,
not giving the answers, but
correct.
giving, asking the questions to push further. It would be so powerful if parents, and I think every parent wants to be a good parent, right?
Hmm.
But somehow it's an experimental journey,
Sure.
experimenting. And if we know that how we can support our children better, how we can create more deeper bonds with them, nudge them forward. So it would be amazing if every parent and every teacher was a coach to a student, to a
True.
child.
True. And Nivedita, we are, now living in a very uncertain age, right? Long is gone the time where inside a corporate, a boss possibly could have all the answers just because of sheer experience and expertise, right? But with situations changing by the minute, there is no one leader who can profess to have all the answers by himself or herself. Similarly, every teacher cannot possibly have it all. Every parent can't have it all. And the best is that if we get back to becoming curious and asking questions rather than pretending that we have all the right answers, I think we'll create a generation that feels so much more comfortable in finding the answers by themselves. And like I say, I use the term unlock the potential so that people can play to potential, right? So, how do we unlock? Just asking questions. And what is really asking powerful, deep questions all about? It is coaching. A good coach doesn't supply you with answers, but just gives you a safe space in which the most powerful questions are asked of you, knowing and trusting that you have the answers inside of you.
And students these days have a higher desire for that autonomy and control. I mean,
Yes,
a teenager now
yes,
has the maturity and deserves that autonomy.
correct, correct.
So we
The
need to.
only thing is that our education system is not keeping in touch with the times, right? For whatever reasons. I think that's a whole different discussion, which again I'm passionate about. But if you see that, till the age of about 4 or 5, a young child is asking 300 to 400 questions a day. And by the time they enter their teens, it sometimes actually comes down to as low as zero. So, what really changes in these 7 or 8 years for a young child entering into their teens? It is that when I ask questions, it means that I am not smart, right? But a young child, 3 or 4 years old, they really know that only by asking questions will they learn more about the world, and they are not ashamed of not knowing, but they are really curious about knowing more about the world they've come into. So they will badger you with the why whole day. But by the time, the same child enters their teen years, you see that we have managed to condition them, making them ashamed of asking questions, making fun of, their desire to open up and, share something. We sit in judgment, whether as parents or as teachers, when the child really wants to express themselves. So, as an outcome of that, children start to shrink and stop sharing and become withdrawn. So it goes the other way around. If we were to encourage all children to be like scientists are, they just push the envelope all the time just by asking questions, and then even looking at proving themselves wrong by challenging their own assumptions on an experiment. So imagine if we were to raise our children like scientists, telling them it's okay to explore, be on that adventurous path, ask questions. If you fail, that's not like really failure, but it's something that now you know how to do better, because obviously it didn't work. But it's not like a personal stigma on you that you failed, but it's really like that thing didn't work out the way we thought it would. Okay, so what do we do next? The next.
Yeah.
So I think if our education systems, if our norms in society, if our parental journeys start to also create more people with a more scientific outlook on life,
And
imagine
a
the kind
higher
of planet
failure
we will create.
tolerance. Higher failure tolerance. I mean,
Yeah,
we say
absolutely.
that, we say that, but we deep down we don't really accept it.
Exactly, exactly. And I think there are some double standards. I mean, for example, I might say all these beautiful things, but I will still push my child to study and feel anxious if, in a day before the exam, he might choose to go watch a movie with friends, right? So I'm not saying that we stop becoming a caring parent or give them the right guidance when it is needed. But, my bias is to start looking at us creating an environment while they're growing up to give them enough values so that they can make these value judgments as and when they are required to make those without someone having to make it for them all the time, or for them to only comply with society all the time, taking the trodden path and not daring to explore or find a new way which better suits their personality and tendency. And that will only happen when, like you said, we have higher failure tolerance, but I feel also, change the way we define success and have a much more open minded definition of success, so that we don't, push children into straight jacketed careers, ways of life, or set, standards for them which which we know they can't live up to or don't want to live up to. So rather than pushing them into misery, why not, create opportunities where they can choose to thrive as their best.
And like you said, given uncertainty and with all that is changing, it's an era of possibilities. You have to create your own possibilities, and then you need to have that agility to be, the earlier careers are no longer going to, 70% of the careers are going to get outdated in the next.
Yeah, they will be disrupted and new ones will come in. So rather than, trying to learn everything, I think the bias has to be in teaching children, especially on how to learn.
How to
So,
learn.
yeah, instead of just what to learn, I think if we focus on more how to learn, and once again, the curriculum is really based on critical thinking, creative thinking, strategic thinking, and do that in the form of play or, conversations that are open and deep at the same time. And education sort of mirrors life rather than learning things by rote. I think that would be something very interesting. So, just this morning, I started reading the story of my experiments with the truth by Mahatma Gandhi. So, his autobiography. And in one of the chapters, he's rueing his really bad handwriting. And he said that, he's so ashamed of the fact that his handwriting was so bad. And when he especially compared it to the lawyers he met in South Africa and England, who were literally writing like pearls on a sheet of paper, he said, I was so disappointed in myself and almost ashamed that why did I not work hard on it? And he said, one of the things I would really want is, even in those years, he said that if schools could start to get children to draw first and allow them to draw to their heart's content, so that they know how to do this and use their fingers and use their imagination, and only then start teaching them how to write. He said allowing them that freedom of expression before, and formation of different shapes and styles, and enjoy the process, then he felt a lot of children might just start writing beautifully on their own when it comes to doing that, rather than forcing every child to learn the A and the B and the cursive, and push them to do that whether they want it or not. And I just was reflecting upon that yeah, small changes like that,
Small changes, small
I mean,
shifts.
what a big impact could
give them
happen.
give them the give them the platform or the space to actually explore the possibilities, like
Correct.
unleash their creativity, and then nudge them towards
Yeah.
finding their niche.
And more structured work can then happen post that. So, yeah.
It has been a brilliant 45 minutes speaking with you. One last takeaway: any advice to the younger Shilpa?
Okay. Lots of advice, but I think one advice would be to slow down, smell the roses, don't rush your journey, because you will arrive, and you will arrive at the time that is right for you, and you will arrive at what's meant to be your destination. Rushing there, will not help you arrive there sooner, honestly. So slow down, enjoy, smell the roses, have fun.
Enjoy the journey. Thank you, Shilpa. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you here.
I enjoyed the conversation, and thank you for those deep, powerful questions. They did make me reflect as well, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a parent, as a community builder in all ways. Thank you.
My pleasure.